Good evening and welcome to Information Please, your Peoria Public Library on the air, bringing you information about your library and your community. And this evening my guest is Nick Stoffer, who is the City of Peoria traffic engineer. Hi Nick.
Hi.
There's a lot of changes going on everywhere in Peoria, downtown in particular, and so we try to get downtown back to the way it used to be when I was a kid, with lots of businesses and people being there. And there's so much going on, but when you get down to that, that means people coming, that means cars. And so you have just finished working on a huge thing to redo parking rates. So can you tell me a little bit about what that's all about?
Okay, we have been looking at our parking rates for the last few years and our parking downtown in general in the paid parking area. We've had a consultant kind of look at what we've done. We did a study for multi-space meters down at the museum area and down
and
at the water.
Explain what those are, because that sounds like
Okay.
you can park it. To me, multi-space, always I immediately think, oh, you can have 4 spaces.
No, the multi-space meters are larger machines, not a single-space parking meter.
Ah, okay.
So a larger machine that would take care of maybe 10 or 15 spaces. So at a multi-space meter, you would park and go up to the multi-space meter and pay, and then you would take a ticket that it would spit out at you and put it in your car, and that would tell you how long you could park depending on how long you pay.
How much money you put in.
Yes, and so we did a trial there, and we have several machines down there, and during that trial we actually had changed the prices of the parking down there to see how people would react to it, and we made the parking down there $1 an hour. Nice, easy, round figure.
Yeah.
Which is a little bit more expensive than our parking meters were and cheaper than our deck prices were. So in accordance to that study, they looked at what we charged for decks, hourly rates versus the parking meters, and they said we kind of have a mismatch because we're encouraging people to park on the street because our rates were cheaper and not park in our decks because our rates were more expensive. So we looked at that and we said, well, maybe the first thing to do would be make them equal. So before we made the change recently, it was $1.50 an hour to park in a deck and 30 to 50 cents an hour to park on street. So we made them both $1 an hour, raising the meter rates and lowering the deck rates. And so starting April 1st, we changed the rates in the deck to be $1 an hour, and then we've been converting the on-street meters to be $1 an hour.
Okay. And how's it going so far? Any feedback? More people in the decks? I mean, do you have any? I mean, that's a very short time.
It's a very short time. We haven't gone back and looked at how many people, the hourly people have parked in the decks versus on streets. And but as far as I'm concerned, I haven't received any complaints about the new rates.
Yeah.
So hopefully people are happy to have a little bit less in the deck. Basically what we're trying to do is encourage people that are going to be downtown for a long period of time to park in the facility and leave this on-street spaces for high turnover or customer parking.
Because you've shortened the time, the meters are all the same now.
Well, that was another change that we made. Previously there were various types of meters. You could find a meter that be a half-hour maximum or a 2-hour maximum, 4 up to 10. And so we just made them all equal. It's all the same price, all the same time maximum, trying to make it easy for everyone.
That's a little bit like what we did at the library when we reopened. You used to have different checkout times for DVDs and books and magazines. Everything's 2 weeks.
Trying to make it
simple. Which people were like, oh boy, we can have a DVD for 2 weeks. Yeah, and you can have your book for 2 weeks. They complained about the book thing, but you can renew stuff, so it's okay. But you're not supposed to feed the meters, right?
No, that's actually against the city code. You're not supposed to feed the meters. You're actually, after the 2-hour maximum, you're supposed to move on and do other business.
And go somewhere and do
somewhere
something else.
Yes.
So, but this $1 an hour rate applies to the city-owned decks, right?
Correct.
And so there's a lot of decks around town. How many city-owned decks are there?
The city owns four public decks. We have one on Jefferson, which is across from City Hall Civic Center.
Okay.
We have one on Fulton, which is across from City Hall, the Twin Towers deck. We have one on Adams, which is closer to Maine, the Niagara deck, and we have the technology deck that's by Robert Morris College. And those are the ones that the price has been changed at. The private decks, we don't control the price.
Okay. And so I have no sense of what the private decks are charging these days, but there's many of those around town too. Of course, some of our hotels and things in the center of the city, you know, are under construction, or, you know, I'm not sure they're all open yet. You mentioned to me before we started recording, which is something I didn't know, that you can actually buy a monthly pass to park in a city deck, and I didn't know that. So what are those prices?
You can buy a monthly pass at any of our city facilities, our city decks. The price of that would be $70 a month for a business permit, which would be Monday through Friday, 6 to 6, or you can pay $75 for 24 hours, 7 days a week.
Which is great if you want to come downtown on a weekend.
Absolutely.
And do something. Yeah. Where do you go to purchase that pass?
You can call Public Works, and we would send you to National Garages or Heartland Parking, who is our parking manager.
Okay. Okay. So now, does the city controls the parking meters on the street and those 4 decks, but are there any of just the open lots around town that belong to the city?
We have quite a few open lots, but they're either leased out by adjacent businesses, or we have some down on the riverfront, which is across from Water Street. You can park in there at an hourly rate and pay and display with a multimeter, or we do have monthly passes for those as well.
Oh, okay, okay. So
I'm sorry, most of those lots down on the riverfront, they have the first 2 hours is free parking. Trying to encourage people to go down there too.
Yeah, to see things and do things. And, yeah. Kind of lost my train of thought.
I'm sorry.
That's all right. That's all right. So do you think the city of Peoria downtown has enough parking? Or I'm sure there's a formula somewhere for how many parking spots you should have for the number of people and businesses in this area. But is that something that you study? Do we have enough parking? Are there plans to provide more parking?
We've done studies in the past. We feel we have adequate parking. Maybe sometimes you may be in an area that there'd be less parking, but not too far away there would be quite a bit of parking. So it may involve a little bit of walking, but in the downtown in general, there's adequate parking. There's quite an ample amount of parking. And as we go on, working with our complete streets policies and other changes we're making to downtown, like the construction on Washington Street and Jefferson Street and Adams in the warehouse district, we are adding on street parking that wasn't necessarily there before.
Oh, okay.
So we're looking at opportunities to add on street parking.
Will there be any new parking decks down in the warehouse district?
Not that I know.
Not planned for now?
Mm-mm.
Okay. And how is that all going to work if it's supposed to be pedestrian friendly? And will there be, when you're talking about on-street parking, is there going to be pedestrian friendly but parking all along the streets, or is there some other plan for how to do that?
Well, we're working with, like I said, complete street designs, and pedestrian focus is very important to us. So we are doing a lot of techniques like what we call bump outs at the corners. So you would actually have a pavement bump out. The curb would go around the corner, which would narrow the actual crossing that the pedestrian would do at the intersection, at the crosswalk.
Oh, that would be nice.
That also has the benefit of sheltering the parking, so it kind of takes the parking away from the through lanes. But the important thing is that it's lessening the distance you have to cross the street.
Oh, that is nice.
And with the narrow lanes and the less lanes, we're actually trying to encourage slower speed through there too.
That'll be good. That'll be really good. Yeah, as someone who's worked downtown for many, many years, it's always interesting. It seems to go in waves with the pedestrians, whether they're just oblivious to the traffic signals or whether they're obeying them. And I don't know what causes that. Why some years nobody's looking at anything and they just walk in front of you, and other times they don't. But definitely having less room to cross is definitely going to help a lot of that. Do you think that our crossing sections and all that with the parking are fairly safe now, the way they're done? Are you
The way we're
redoing the ones that
designing
are redesigned?
Absolutely. The way that we're designing, we feel that they are safe. We feel that we're slowing traffic and we're giving the pedestrians a better way across the streets.
Yeah.
You know, the design that had been done for years and years really hadn't factored that into the equation.
Yeah, I think we lost the whole idea of worrying about pedestrians back when everybody took to their cars.
Absolutely.
You know.
Now we're trying to focus what we call complete streets, and it means that we're going to look at all the users of the streets, whether it's the car or the pedestrian or bicycles or the mass transit as well.
Yeah, and I understand that mass transit use is up a little bit too, and I know there's more and more routes. We have so many people using the library. One of the reasons we put the North Branch where we did was because we could get a bus there, and that's the same thing as we have buses that go to all the libraries. So we hope people take advantage of that. It's a safe way to get there, and then you don't have to worry about parking.
Absolutely.
Of course, yeah, parking is not an issue at any place. We have our own, not city-owned, other than we're part of the city, sort of, but we have our own lot at the library, which, of course, the parking limit's 2 hours there, and I'm actually not sure what our rate is at the moment, but it's available and convenient for people down at Main Library. So you mentioned bicycles, and so is there anything coming up to handle the increase in bike traffic or encourage it? Because definitely, is it good for our environment and good for the businesses? It's good for the people to be getting that exercise as well. And I see more and more people around downtown on bikes. So what's happening
We're
there?
definitely trying to encourage more alternate uses of the roadway and trying to get people out of the cars and walk and bike more. So to that end, what we've done is we're in the process of hiring a consultant to help us formulate a citywide bicycle plan. We have a bicycle map, but we want to kind of build on that and set some priorities for where we're going to spend some effort and money to build bicycle facilities, and just so we can get the best value for our money.
Yeah. Now, when you say bicycle facility, what do you mean by that?
Well, they could be on-street painted bike lanes, or it could be an off-street path. It could be bike racks. It could be other facilities, but we want to have the consultant help us look at connected routes, because routes, if they don't connect to anything, don't really help very many people.
Yeah.
So we want to be able to get from point A to point B and use the bike facilities for more than just recreation.
Yeah.
We know that there's people, and more people are desiring to use them for commuting too.
Yeah, would like to use them for transportation. And I know it's been of big benefit having the buses that can transport the bikes. I see that a lot with people can take the bus and then take their bike, so that would really help to be able to do that once you got to downtown, be able to ride safely.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
We anticipate there'll be more and more people on the road with a bike, so people need to understand that they're going to be there, and they need to slow down and yield to them when necessary, and accept that they're part of the traveling community.
Part of the landscape,
Yes.
and you can't drive the way you used to.
It's
just
a different
oblivious.
it's a different mindset. People
It
just
is.
need to think about who's using the road.
Well, all they need to do is go to Minneapolis one time, one day driving in Minneapolis, if they want to see what sharing the road with
Absolutely.
everybody is like, and it works just fine. It works fine, but that is a good place to go to really experience the bicycling and the walking along with the cars and the mass transit.
Sure, and we will
It's
not be the
wild.
first to implement these kinds of strategies.
No.
They-
And I will tell you, when we built our new libraries, we had to add bike racks. I mean, we had bike racks in place. We knew we needed bike racks because they had been used before, but we just didn't have enough bike racks, and people were chaining bikes to everything they could find. So we got more bike racks at the main library. We have them both in the front and on the side, so there should always be a place. We had trouble with people bringing bikes in and all kinds of stuff, but once we added enough bike racks that people felt were safe, because they want to see their bikes, so we had to put them by the window.
Yes.
And once we did that, then we didn't have a problem anymore. But to me, that was encouraging because it meant more people are on bikes.
And we've added bike racks to City Hall as well.
Oh, yeah, yeah.
We're trying to encourage that
Yeah.
use.
Yeah. It's exciting. Well, it would be interesting to see what the engineers will do about Peoria's bluffs, where you literally, I don't think many people could ride a bike up some of our very steep, like Main Street Hill and Hamilton Hill, which being very well acquainted with local history, being at the library, we've got all the cool pictures of the horse-drawn buses and cars that used to stop at the bottom of the hill, add another hitch of horses to go up the hill, and when you got to the top, unhitch them, which I think wouldn't it have been just as easy to, to walk up the hill by that time. But maybe not. I don't know how long that took. I'm sure they were very quick at it. But
sure, we understand that that's obviously a part of Peoria. The terrain. It's a good and a bad part of Peoria.
Yeah,
and
those hills are.
People may have to walk their bikes up, but you could also, if you're on a bus route, you can. They have the buses themselves on the front of them have a bike rack, so you could take a bus and
ride your
bike to a bus stop and then get off the bus and then
go up the hill.
Yes, you could do that.
Where do you think that you're looking at bike paths all over the city or mostly just downtown?
Oh, well, this is going to be a citywide effort.
Okay.
But it will take time.
Yeah. When you say time, are you talking 10 years, 20 years?
Yes.
Long range planning.
You'll see things every year. You'll see more. Is what I guess what I'm saying.
Adding to it. So it'll be a slow transition.
It's not something we can do all at once, but it will be. We'll try to get priorities and set our focus so we can, affect more people with less projects, and then as we go, we'll get more and more projects underway.
Do you talk to any of the bike riding clubs or anything when you're making these plans? I mean, is there like public input from the people who are most likely to use the bike paths?
Yes, we do. We included them in the consultant selection, and the project that we have with the consultant is going to involve a pretty strenuous public input process. So we want to hear what people want to say about it.
Yeah, of course, Peoria was one of the early bicycle capitals. We had bicycle factories here, and we had the Peoria Bicycle Club that was so famous, and there are books written about it, and we have a big section in local history. It would be fun sometime when you open a new bike path to get some of the antique bicycles out there and celebrate our history along with, return to that mode of transportation would be pretty cool.
That's a good idea.
Yeah. So what else are you up to as a traffic engineer besides changing parking rates, parking decks, bicycles, and what else is going on with?
Well, I guess I could take this opportunity to caution people. We since the weather's warmed up again, we've started pavement marking again. So we have every year when we have good weather, we do pavement marking stripings, which would be the yellow and the white lines, lane lines, and arrows and crosswalks. So we're out there doing crosswalks right now, and then we're going to go to the long lines and just be careful if you see our vehicles and slow down and go around us. Yeah,
be careful of the workers.
Yes, because we're out there on the street.
Do you get the people driving through that? Does it mess up what you've just done if they?
No, typically it's a thermoplastic product, and it hardens very fast.
So you don't really have to worry
You don't want somebody
so
to be driving right along the line, but they can usually cross it.
Yeah. Well, we do want to be careful about all of our workers out on the street. I was talking to David Haste about the city streets and potholes recently, and we had a conversation about how they literally have to take 2 trucks because they have to have one truck doing the work and the other truck basically to protect the workers on the main busy streets, not on the side streets, because people just either don't see them or think they can make it, that kind of thing, or so focused on where they're trying to go. That's something that we all need to be aware. We hear it every day on the media, but somehow we all get so focused on we must be somewhere that we don't pay attention.
People are always in a hurry, and people still use their cell phones, even though it's against law to you must be hand-free in the car when you're driving. And
When I've seen people downtown where it's obvious they've got the voice, the speaker on, and they're talking on the phone, but holding the
it with their
phone,
hand?
yelling into it, rather than a speaker or whatever. So is that legal or illegal?
that would be up to the policeman that would be ticketing them, but my interpretation is that's not hands-free.
Yeah, because your hand is busy.
Correct.
Yes, yes. Have you seen any impact, and maybe this isn't even your department, but it must be in some way, with the hands-free cell phones? Have you seen any impact on the new law?
Not specifically. I know that we have in the past been trying to discourage cell phone use in construction zones. So this kind of alleviates that concern because people aren't supposed to be using cell phones anyway. So that's the only significant impact I've seen. But
Is helping with the construction
probably
zones, protecting workers.
it's probably a question for the police department to see if they've seen a drop in cell phone related crashes.
I've seen an increase in threatening billboards. There's one that just says, "Put the phone down" or "Get off the phone" or something like that. I mean, no, making no attempt to be polite or nice about it anymore. Just get off the phone.
I think that's part of the process, is educating people of what they have to do, because people don't necessarily know that the law changed, so they need to be told and educated.
Yeah, right.
And that brings me to another thing that I can I guess describe. The law for crosswalks has changed. We used to be where you're supposed to yield to pedestrians, and now the law actually states that you're supposed to stop for a pedestrian that's on the crosswalk or imminently getting ready to cross the crosswalk. Obviously, if there's a pedestrian signal, they have to obey that still.
Okay.
But so you're going to be seeing signs that come up in the city of Peoria that say "Stop here for pedestrians," which will be a walking person symbol with a little stop sign and an arrow pointing down towards the crosswalk. So be aware that that's out there, and if you see a pedestrian entering the crosswalk, you need to stop for them.
What if you've got a green light, there's heavy traffic, you're going, they have the pedestrian has the stop, and they still walk out in front of you?
Well, that sign would not exist in that situation at a traffic signal. The pedestrian would be in the wrong there. Obviously, you
Obviously, you
can't
don't
hit
want
a
to hit
pedestrian,
them.
but yes.
No, you don't want to hit them,
And
but
that would, if there was a crash there, that would be a liability issue.
I just ask because, as I said, living in, or not living, but working downtown for so many years, it seems like suddenly the pedestrians are not paying any attention to those signs and walking right out into the street all over downtown, as the bicycle riders riding the wrong way on the sidewalk. And if you're on a one-way street and you go to turn and they're coming the wrong way on a sidewalk, and the light turns green the other way, but you can turn right on a red and shoot right in front of you. It happens repeatedly, and I'm not sure what it takes to educate the pedestrians that
and they have
you
responsibilities
have an obligation
too.
to stop.
Absolutely, we haven't taken any responsibility away from the bikes or the pedestrians.
They're still supposed to follow the traffic rules.
They still must do that, and I point out that sign that has the "Stop here for pedestrian" sign, because it's somewhat confusing. I've seen people stop when there's no pedestrian because there's a little stop sign on it, and I just wanted to point that out, that if there's no pedestrian, you don't have to stop.
You don't have to stop. You only have to stop if there is actually a pedestrian right there, and those are where there are not a stoplight.
Yes.
Yeah, those are simply a reminder to stop for pedestrians at a spot where they have no other way to get across, probably.
Correct. It may be at a mid-block crossing or at a more busy road, which has like a side crossing that has a crosswalk.
Yeah. Okay. Well, I want to go back, and for anybody who might have tuned in late and not caught the beginning of this, and talk, just wrap up kind of what we've talked about with the parking changes again. And what you've done is you've leveled out the rates. So what are they now?
In an effort to try to encourage people that are going to be downtown for a long period of time and help clear the streets, the on-street parking for customers that come down just for a short period of time for a restaurant or a shop, We've leveled out the parking for $1 an hour for both our on-street meter rates and our deck hourly rates.
And your deck hourly rates,
Mm-hmm.
okay. Do you have enough deck parking to handle the people who've, you know, did park for a long time? Were the parking decks more empty, not being used as heavily?
It just depends on the parking deck. The one across from City Hall underneath the Twin Towers is generally pretty busy, but it does have capacity to take some more people. The other decks, like the Jefferson deck across from Civic Center or the Niagara deck, they have lots of room.
Plenty of room for
Yeah.
people to park, so that
Absolutely.
people should give it a try.
They should. If they're going to be
And you can-
downtown for a long time, they can't park more than 2 hours on the street. So if you want to be down there for 4 hours, park in
Park
the deck.
in the deck and that'll
and
solve
pay
your problem.
You'll be paying the same amount of per hour.
Yeah, it won't cost any more. I think people used to think the decks were more because then your car was under shelter, and so if it's raining or snowing or something, you're out of all that and out of the hot sun too, which could be an advantage. But anyway, well, Nick, thank you so much for coming and joining me today. I'm glad you could take time to come and explain these changes that'll be our new improved Peoria, an easier way to get around and easier way to park and use our city.
Thank you.
There's plenty of events going on at Peoria Public Library, and now's the time to sign up for summer reading. You can get all the details about summer reading at any of our library locations or on our website. All you have to do is sign up, and then between June 6th and July 26th, come in and sign your contract that you read 3 hours a week. So you can do that with our 2-hour parking downtown or any of our other locations that have our free parking. But you can find all about that and all of our other events we're having at peoriapubliclibrary.org. It's easy, and if you don't want to use the website, just call 497-2000. We'll see you next week on Information Please.